What's that one company's tagline? Bags packed, plane booked, hotel not Trivago, please, on behalf of all hotel workers. As someone who's worked in hotels for my whole career, let me give you the inside scoop about these third-party reservation people like Expedia and Trivago and Hotels.com that you may not realize. Number one, pretty much nothing is guaranteed. Your room type isn't guaranteed, your view isn't guaranteed, even if you paid for an upgrade, still not guaranteed, and even your hotel itself isn't guaranteed. Which leads me to point number two. When hotels inevitably overbook their rooms, and I can make a whole separate video about why hotels overbook, when that happens, third-party reservations are the first to be walked to a different property. In the end, we're going to keep the people who are paying the hotel directly and not going through some middleman, especially if those people are members and have status at the hotel. And fun fact, at some hotel chains, if you have to relocate someone who has really high status at that hotel, sometimes you have to give them cash as an apology for walking them on top of covering their stay at the other hotel and doing a whole bunch of other things. And the last little fun fact about booking with these third-party companies is that you have made a contract with the third-party company who then makes a contract with the hotel, and we are unable to break that contract. And what that basically boils down to is that the hotel can't make any changes to your reservation. So if you can't show up, if you want to stay longer, if you want to leave early, we can't do anything for you. You have to call the third party. I cannot tell you how many times I have had someone call me saying that they've had a family emergency and they need to cancel their reservation, and would we please not charge them? And I have to say, it's not up to me. You need to call Expedia and wait for like 4 hours on hold to get a hold of a real person. And this isn't to say that you should never book with third parties, because in the end you could get some great rates that you couldn't get otherwise, but just be aware of the fact that the hotel itself is very limited on the steps that they can take in order to help you with an issue if and when an issue arises. So this is actually a great question. Why do hotels overbook? The guests hate it, the employees hate it, and in a way you're promising to sell rooms that you don't have. How is that ethical? There's a whole theory around it, and to make the theory more simple to understand, let's give an example. So let's say you have a TV to sell, right? You can have that TV sitting on the shelf for days and days and days, and when it finally sells, you're gonna make just as much money as you would if it is sold on day one. But the thing is, hotels only have one night to sell their inventory, and if that inventory isn't sold, then it's gone. You can't go back in time and resell that room that never sold, so you can't make that revenue for that night that you would have made if you had sold that room. And since many hotels do experience cancellations and no-shows, to try and maximize their profit and make sure that they get as many heads in beds as possible, they will oversell. And there are whole programs and formulas and even people dedicated to guessing how much they can oversell on a certain night and not have to walk people at the end of it. So basically, it's about money. So let me tell you why it is so important that when you go to a hotel, your name is on the reservation and you have ID to prove it. So a majority of the time, in my experience, husbands have been the one to book reservations under their name, but then the wives are the ones that they go and send in to check in. And the thing is, if your name isn't on the reservation, we can't give you a key. We can't check you in. We need to see your husband's ID and have him confirm we can add you first. And unsurprisingly, a lot of people tend to get very annoyed by this, but I'm his wife. Why can't you just let me in the room? Well, this is one of the reasons why. So at my old hotel, we had a wife come and try to check into her husband's reservation. They had the same last name, same address, everything, but her name was not on the reservation. And we told her, sorry, but we can't let you into this room. We can't give you the key. And she got so angry with us. We tried to get her to contact her husband so he could give her permission to get in the room, but she refused. And she was making such a big scene that we finally had to call the police. And it turned out she was trying to plant drugs in the room so she could get custody of the kids. What is it about Wednesdays that's been bringing out all the weirdos? And I'm not talking about the good weirdos that we know and love. I'm talking about the weirdos. Like, I can forgive stuff happening on a Friday and a Saturday because it's the end of the week, people are partying, people are going crazy. You expect it, you know, like you just expect it. But a Wednesday? So I work overnights at a hotel, and when I came into my shift last Wednesday, this poor, sweet angel of a evening shift girl looked at me and said, hey, Jessica, I just have to let you know that something kind of weird happened today. A guest asked me to show him my feet. And she said, yeah, no, he saw that my nails were painted and he wanted to know if my toenails were painted too. And I said, well, yeah. And he said, well, then take off your shoes and show me. And I'm just sitting there like, did he at least slip you a 20? No, but actually she was pretty freaked out. And when she said, no, I'm not taking off my shoes and showing you my feet, he got all offended. And he was like, wow, well, you're the first woman that I've asked to show me her feet who's told me no. And I'm like, sir, do you ask women to take off their shoes at their workplaces often? How have you not been arrested, my dude? Oh, But it gets worse. He then proceeds to ask if the employees park in the same place that the guests do. And of course, that's a little sus. So we send out my security to check the parking lot before my girl's supposed to leave. And guess who's there waiting in the parking lot, oh so casually? We decide to just have my security come back in and escort my front desk agent out, make sure that she gets in her car undisturbed and drives away. I told him, make sure she drives away. After that, I didn't see this guy for like another 3 hours. And I'm sure you might already have a mental image of what this guy looks like in your head, but he was in his early 30s, young, recently attractive, in a suit. He was a businessman, and he wasn't that intoxicated. Like, he had a couple drinks, but he wasn't like intoxicated. And he comes back in at about 2 a.m. and proceeds to ask me about my shoes. And at this point, I'm being polite, I'm being professional, but I'm not being my usual Disney princess self. But I do take some of that princess training and I steer the conversation. I ask him, oh, are you going to this event that's happening at the hotel tomorrow? And he says, no. And I say, oh, what are you doing tomorrow? And he says, well, I have to be really early to get to this meeting. And I say, it's already 2 a.m. You should get to bed, huh? You should probably get to bed. It's late. And thankfully, he does get the hint at this point and goes away. But if that conversation had continued and he'd asked me to take off my shoes and show him my feet, I would have lost my status on Team Purity. Because the things that would have come out of my mouth would have not been very pure. So I'm part of a group for people who work in hotels, and usually we just go in there to post crazy stories, but someone asked, does anyone have any advice on what to do with kids running around the lobby? I've already yelled at them twice. And the responses are, trip their little asses. Target practice? Just kidding. Ooh, someone posted an image response. How to make your own tranquilizer dart, followed quickly by hang them by their feet down the laundry chute, put Vaseline on the floor, and can you put oil or water on the floor and let them learn the hard way? And then probably my favorite one of all, offer them candy, then shove them in the oven. Oops, wrong group, sorry. Or if you're not feeling like cooking the kids, barefoot, lay some tacks in the hall, or beat them. Yep, I'm working in the right industry. So a little fun fact about me, I have worked in the hospitality industry for about 4 years now. I started in food service, and then I went and worked at the front desk of a hotel for a while, and then I went and I worked at Universal for a season, and then I found myself coming back to hotels because that's just where I fit the best. And let me tell you, some crazy things happen at hotels. One of my favorite stories isn't exactly my story, but it did happen at the hotel where I worked, and the next day when I came in for work, I got to hear all about it. So what happened was, at about 1 a.m., a guest at our hotel woke up in his room, decided he needed to use the restroom, and when he went to go wander into the bathroom, he must have gotten the doors mixed up, and he stepped out the front door instead. And he didn't realize what he'd done until the door clicked, locked behind him. Oh, and by the way, he was buck naked. Obviously, he didn't have his key on him, so he had to come to the front desk in his birthday suit and ask for some help. And you know what's even better? This isn't rare. This happens at hotels all the time.